Hello and welcome to Nice and Blunt. My name is Adam Mariancho, and today is Thursday, August 22nd, 4 p.m. Pacific time, and it's time for their live stream. It's time for another draft. You know what's happening. Let's go. All right, here we are on Underdog, and the news of the day is that Jahan Dotson was traded from the Commanders to the Eagles. There was some weird situations going on with him in the preseason. A lot of snaps played, but a lot of them not with the starters. He was vying for his job, and Washington basically said, we're better off without him. They traded him in division. That usually doesn't happen. So that is kind of a shocking thing. I expected him to stay with the team, but he is from Penn State, so maybe he wanted to go to the Eagles. I doubt that's the case. It's more so just the Eagles maybe identifying him back when he was drafted as someone they liked and believing that they can get him right. He is a former first round overall pick, went 16th overall in 2022, just a couple years ago. He's 5'11, 181, only 30-inch arms, so 24th percentile. His catch radius is pretty low, 23rd percentile. He is relatively fast, though, 4'4", 340, but based on his weight, not like insane speed. In terms of his athleticism score, he was not really great in his class. So he does have talent. He did have a good season, at least for fantasy, a couple years ago. He had 7 touchdowns in only 12 games, 523 yards on 35 catches. And on a per game basis, he was the wide receiver 38 with 10.9 points per game, according to Player Profiler. But last year was really disappointing. Played all 17 games, only 518 yards. Didn't beat out Curtis Samuel. 4 touchdowns and 7.3 points per game. Wasn't even a top 65 receiver on a points per game basis. So I'm not excited to draft him anymore. I was already fading him quite a bit. You'd see me pass on him in the he'd been falling to like the 14th round lately, but I was drafting him quite a bit earlier on. Here's my exposure on Jahan Dotson up to this point in just under 220 drafts this offseason since the NFL draft. And as you can see, I'm 7.3% exposed. His ADP was low, so I'd be willing to take him, especially paired up with Jaden Daniels. That was a stack I was getting kind of often, so that's not going to work out at all. I'm glad I'm below baseline, but he was my third most drafted commander. I was really investing in Brian Robinson at a rate of 14%, Jaden Daniels at a rate of 8.7%, so a little bit more than average. I've been hitting the Senate button a lot more lately. I was fading Senate for quite a while. I'm only at 5%, so Senate will be moving up due to this news, but I wish I had more Terry McLaurin now that we know that is what's happening with Dotson. McLaurin's going to see a lot more volume, kind of like a Michael Pittman type of scenario last year. Like last year, Pittman was really the only player that was valuable in the Colts, and I think Terry should probably be going closer to Pittman now in the draft. You know, I'm kind of low on Pittman in terms of overall ADP, but good offensive coordinator. We've seen DeAndre Hopkins play really well, even Christian Kirk as the number 1 wideout for Cliff Kingsbury in the past. So I wish I had more Terry, and we'll see if we reach on Terry in this draft. His ADP of pick 50 overall feels like it's a safe floor now. I was usually fading him. I thought he should have been going like a round later. Now I think it's like at worst a fair price, but you could take him earlier than that. The question is, are you still willing to draft those tight ends like Mark Andrews, Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid above McLaurin? I think depending on your team, you can justify going either way. So that's interesting, but obviously Luke McCaffrey has more of a path to success now. De'Ami Brown, who you've seen me take now 3 times in the last like couple weeks. I have taken him on the live stream at least once. You know, he's looking like the number 2 receiver. So some high upside, very low roster percentage So definitely worth a shot in Best Ball Mania. I probably wouldn't grab him before like the 14th round, but I don't think that this 214.7 overall ADP is appropriate either. I'd definitely reach on him a little bit. We'll see where he ends up going in the draft today. But yeah, that's my situation with Washington. I'm not interested in drafting Dotson. Like, this is at best like a Johnny Wilson scenario, and I wasn't interested in Johnny Wilson before. The wide receiver three in Philadelphia is not that valuable. Like, maybe things will change, but I think it's just like an insurance policy. If AJ Brown or Devontae Smith get hurt, I don't expect much from Dotson this year with the Eagles. Not a great situation overall. So yeah, that's what's going on there. Goat mode, good to see you. Yeah, we're 1 week away from our subscriber league drafts. We're 2 weeks away from the first game of the season. Fight Me's in the chat. Goat mode does not love the trade for the Commanders. I mean, you know, if they really don't believe in Dotson, if they really didn't want him, they're not the regime that drafted him either. You know, it might look, it might turn out well for them. It might not look too bad. But Abraham, nice to see you. How do I join the subscriber league? At the moment, it's full. There are some people who have voiced interest since it's been full. If you want to reserve a spot for next year, you can email me at niceandblunt@gmail.com. I believe I have all the details in the description of this video. If not, it's in the description of like other videos. I feel like I may have removed it since we've hit the 12 teams for the subscriber league. But yeah, if you want to reserve a spot for next year or just join the wait list for this season, there's one team that still hasn't paid. So if they go down to the wire, I might need someone to fill in. But they played last season. I doubt they're not going to pay. I know them, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, that would be how you join. You email me and you reserve a spot. At the moment, looks more likely it'd be next season than this year. But Jonathan, what's up? Nice to see you. And we are going to be joining a draft today. I think I'm going to do the marathon today. You've seen me do the marathon a few times, and I've brought this up. This is not a tournament that's going to fill. There's only 2 weeks left, and there's only 61,000 entries that have been taken. Meanwhile, they've guaranteed the prize pool for what they expected to be 150,000 spots. So that means you have a very good chance of payout, on top of the fact that you don't need to advance to the playoffs. Like, you're instantly in the playoffs once you draft a team. It's cumulative scoring from weeks 1 through 17. So the top 23,000, I believe that's correct. The payouts go to, yeah, the top 23,000 teams get double their entry back. You immediately make $15 if you finish top 23,000. And at the moment, let's see, I'll pull out the trusty old calculator. 23,000 divided by 61,638 would be a 37% chance of getting your money back. And if we multiply that by 12 teams, you have to finish top 4.48. So if you're top 4, you're guaranteed. If you're top 5, you still have a chance perhaps of doubling that money. But I assume with more entries coming in over the next 2 weeks, it's basically, if you finish top 4, you double your money. It goes up from there after that fact. So that's what I'm going to try to do. If you want to join me, hit that button now. Usually these take a while to fill, so we'll see how long I'm waiting, but I'm hitting the button right now. And again, the location error. What is going on? I've done some drafts off the live stream. This makes no sense. It even says I have my location shared at the top of the page. This is weird. All right, so bear with me. We'll be in just a moment, but if we have to wait more than 4 or 5 minutes, you'll see me get out and do probably a puppy, probably a $5 draft, most likely. But it's loading on my phone, taking a minute. Okay. Hopping into a marathon. I'm hitting the button right now. And it looks like there's 3 more spots. Waiting for 3 people. So if you do want to join, there are 3 spots left, and that means I'm probably going to just tough it out and wait for this thing to fill. In the meantime, while we're waiting, maybe we do an immaculate grid. We've done that in the past. Okay, we need a 10,000-yard passer in his career for the Cowboys. We'll go with Tony Romo. You're also trying to be as unique as possible. You want the least chosen player when you enter these picks for the sake of a score. So 27%, not bad, but we're hoping to get less than 10. For the Saints, 10,000-yard passing on the career. I'm going to go Jameis Winston. They don't need to currently be on the Saints. 10%. Cool. And then on the Packers, 10,000 yards career. Jordan Love does not qualify. There's not that many options. We'll just take Aaron Rodgers. I wish Matt Flynn would qualify, but I don't think Matt Flynn is going to hit it. I think Matt Flynn is a very risky pick, but 51%. At least I get it correct. But okay, now we need a Falcon and a Cowboy. We're going to go Deion Sanders. Prime time, baby. 77%. Everyone's thinking that. But Falcon and Saint. Ooh, tough rivalry there. Not too many players overlap on that. I might come back to that one. Falcon and Packer. Falcon and Packer. Oh, the lobby is full. Okay, we'll get back to the grid later on. We have pick 4. We'll be on the clock very soon. And this draft is going to start very shortly. But a Viking and Packer, there's a lot of those. I could go Brett Favre. I could go in many different directions. I'm going to go Zadarius Smith. 16%. Not bad with that. Viking and Saint. Viking and Saint, Viking and Cowboy. I don't know. I kind of already want to move on from this. Anyways, let's get into this lobby where we need total points. Total points. So McCaffrey comes off the board at pick 1. Breece Hall at pick 2. Wow. So running back pushed up in this draft. We'll keep that in mind. But I'm not going to go Bijan at pick 4. Not going to do that. CeeDee Lamb, I'm just going to go Tyreek Hill. Bet on the Dolphins, not a bad bet at all. Tyreek Hill should stay healthy and should work out. The only way he doesn't work out is if he gets hurt. He is 30 years old this season, but that's a lot different than being like 32 or 33. Tyreek Hill, I still think, has one completely elite season left in him. At least one, if not multiple. But I'm comfortable going Tyreek here. At pick 4. Bijan goes pick 5. Jamar falls to 6. Amon-Ra 7. Jefferson at pick 8. Mr. Garrett Wilson at pick 9. AJ Brown at 10. I wouldn't think that Jahan Dotson impacts AJ Brown at all. Doesn't move the needle in any way, shape, or form on the Eagles offense otherwise. Just someone more confident in Garrett Wilson. Taylor at 11. And yeah, we'll see what happens here. But as always, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for me. Hit that like button for me as well. And if you're interested in my waiver wire videos over the course of the season, those are going to be for members only. You can join the channel and get a $5 per month membership and access to those videos for members only. At the moment, there are no members only videos currently posted, but we're 2 weeks away. We'll get there soon. And I might post one in the next week or two, possibly. But of course, that's your decision. Abraham, how's the Jamar Chase situation looking? Nothing has changed at the moment. Still not under contract, but I think it'll happen. I'm not worried about it. Not concerned. Worst case scenario, he plays this season without the contract. There's some rumors that he's willing to not step on the field until he does get the contract. I doubt that actually happens, though. I would still trust him to play. But I think it's kind of the same situation with Lamb, with Ayuk as well. Until we're hitting September, until it's like Labor Day weekend, I don't think either party's like extremely motivated to do it right now. Get the last preseason game over with, hit Labor Day, and I think that's when things will move. But we're going to go Nico Collins here for sure. Tempting to go with a running back, but I don't want Derrick Henry. I'd much rather have Pacheco. And 2 of these next 6 picks already have a running back, so I'm going to go Nico Collins. I think he's the best option. High spike week potential as well. And it's not just about week 15, 16, 17. It's all season long. Those big games for Nico all count equally. So I have Nico as my highest ranked other than Ayuk here, but I think Ayuk I can still get at 28. The team at 2 goes Derrick Henry, so I might miss out on Pacheco. That would not be great. But I could pivot to Josh Jacobs if I really need to. We see A-Chain at 16, Kyron at 18, Saquon at 13. So, yeah, I think it would behoove me to grab running back here in the 3rd, just given how coveted it has been in this draft. I mean, even the team at 1 takes Pacheco. So, I think I'm going to go Josh Jacobs with this next pick. Not ideal, given it's kind of a reach. But this team might be taking ETN. And I've actually bumped up Jacobs in my rankings above ETN. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm more confident in him given the injury to Marshawn Lloyd. Not great here given the ADP situation, but I'm just going to trust my rankings. And running back is really moving up the board here. So not ideal. I wanted Pacheco, but I do not want to get buried at running back. That is for sure. So just going to take Josh Jacobs and move on. Obviously, stacking is something to consider, but I don't know if it's like the most critical thing in the marathon. It's probably still a wise thing to do. But if you don't get it, I don't think it's the end of the world. Whereas when you're in a very large field tournament, you need that minute chance to differentiate yourself in like a single week elimination type of setting. When you need to be the best team in the group in weeks 15, 16, 17, it matters a lot more. Here, it still matters. I wouldn't overlook a stack, but I don't think it's like the most necessary thing to do. Whereas in Best Ball Mania, I think if you don't do it, you're kind of in a hole. Abraham asking, how do you think Brock Purdy will do this season? As long as Ayuk is still there, I think Purdy's going to be just as good as last season. Probably not as efficient. He was extremely efficient last year on a per attempt basis, but should still put up really good numbers. It's Kyle Shanahan's offense at the end of the day. CMC is already banged up, getting a little older. They might try to preserve him, assuming they're trying to make a push for the Super Bowl again. I think he'll see a bit more volume, but probably not be as efficient. Overall, though, put up similar numbers, and maybe their defense takes a slight step back, and they're in a bit more competitive matchups in the fourth quarter. I don't think they're going to win as many games this year as they did last season. I think the Rams actually win the division. So that would mean more usage in the second half for the Niners and some better stats. But Dev just got here as I picked your boy. Yeah, running back is very important in this draft right now. This is not a puppy, though. This is a marathon, and that's why running back is so more highly coveted at the moment. But I'll be on the clock with the next pick. And wow, I might go Tank Dell with this next selection. Set up a CJ Stroud stack. And that's what I'm going to do. I have Tank Dell ranked above Stephon Diggs. I think he is more valuable. And while Diggs is also interesting, I'm just going to stick to my ranks, grab the guy I want the most. We'll set ourselves up for a Nico Collins Tank Dell stack. Another thing to keep in mind is you don't want to like overcommit to like a week 14 bye across the board, because that week is part of the equation. Granted, you are at full strength every other week. Putting up zeros in a week 14, does factor into the full equation over a full 17 game sample size. So I don't know if I'm going to triple stack with Diggs here. Diggs actually goes 46, so I'm definitely not doing that. But yeah, I'll keep that in mind just a little bit. Maybe I don't grab like a shit ton of week 14 buys. But I can get by with several. It's not the end of the world. Who's my dark horse MVP candidate? I mean, I'm kind of convinced it's going to be Mahomes already. Wouldn't be shocked if that happened at all. But dark horse, that Mahomes is definitely not a dark horse for that. Let me make my pick, and then I'll let you know. Kind of want to go with Kenneth Walker. But I do think one of the elite tight ends is really valuable in this setting. So I'm going to take McBride here. Falling a little past ADP. I'll just do it. Stay balanced. Keep my roster secure. And that way, if I don't love the values on tight end later, I can pass on it and not feel bad. But back to your question, who's my dark horse MVP candidate? I think Jordan Love is kind of a potential option. I think Dak also a potential guy. He was an MVP candidate last season. Will he win it? Probably not. I don't think they actually make the playoffs, so I wouldn't bet money on Dak. But they would have to make the playoffs, and of the playoff teams that I currently have, Richardson could do it. I think there's a world where Anthony Richardson is an MVP candidate. I'd be shocked if he won it. But I think CJ Stroud is probably, like, other than Mahomes, probably my favorite bet. Stroud or Burrow. If I wasn't going to put money down on Mahomes, I think I'd go with Stroud or Burrow. In the NFC, I think Love would probably be in consideration as like a dark horse guy. Besides that, the only one I could maybe talk myself into is Jalen Hurts. I think those would be my five guys. I would take Richardson out of that equation. I would say Mahomes number one, Stroud number two, Jalen Hurts number three, Joe Burrow number four, Jordan Love number five. That's my top five. Jonathan, thoughts on the Broncos pass catchers with Bo being named starter? Sutton is a free agent in my home league. Standard, but no way he gets 10 touchdowns again, in my opinion. Yeah, that's a long shot for him to score 10 touchdowns again. Looks like I'm going to get my CJ Stroud selection. That's nice. Unless this team snipes me. They have Josh Allen already, so doubt it. But I'll get to the question in just one sec. I'll get back to your question, Jonathan, right after this pick. I'm going to take CJ Stroud. I think it's a no-brainer with this Nico Collins Tank Dell stack. Let us go. Let's hope for that Stroud MVP season to actually hit. But I think they're going to spread it around a lot in Denver. I think Nix is hyper efficient in terms of like completion percentage. Last year in college, he had a 77% completion percentage. So I don't expect it to be that high. As a rookie, he will be making mistakes. But I do think there's going to be a lot of short passes. And it looks like Tim Patrick might be the number 2 receiver. Looks like Josh Reynolds might be the number 3. And Marvin Mims seems to have faded on the depth chart. Troy Franklin is a bit of an afterthought. There's a lot of guys to throw it to. Last year, it was like strictly Sutton and Judy. So I think that's a big reason why you should be fading Cortland Sutton. Not only is he super touchdown dependent, he didn't even have a lot of targets last year. Sutton had like 90 targets. Yeah, only 90 targets last season, 59 catches, 772 yards is not that great. It was only like 25 more than Jerry Jeudy. So Sutton probably comes down to like 6 touchdowns, and that's why I'm not really trying to draft him like at all. But I think they all kind of eat into each other, and it's just like some spike week potential. But here, yikes, running back is kind of brutal. I was hoping for maybe Najee Harris there. I could go with receiver, but there seems to be good values at receiver in this draft, so I think I'm just going to take either Ramondre or Raheem. I'm going to go Mostert. I'm going to take Raheem Mostert, hope for some touchdown production. I just can't really talk myself into a Patriots running back investing in the Pats offense instead of the Dolphins offense. Like, there's a theme so far in this draft. I'm investing in really good offenses. You can argue that Arizona's not the best, but because it's so narrow, McBride is like such a safe pick. But yeah, I've only taken Houston Texans, Miami Dolphins, a Green Bay Packer, and an Arizona Cardinal on this team. So I would rather not take a New England Patriot. But yeah, I'm really not dying to draft a single Broncos receiver just because I think it's going to be so spread out and very random who actually puts up points. I'd be more comfortable in best ball, but I think in your redraft setting, barring 10 more touchdowns for Sutton, I don't think anyone is really that valuable. There's a world where Dulcich is somewhat valuable just because tight end has such a low bar, but even that feels kind of risky. I don't think he's like guaranteed for a lot of targets or catches. It's just a question of like, will Troutman get hurt or will Troutman really get relegated behind Dulcich? So if I'm not taking Bo Nix, I'm really not trying to draft like any Denver Broncos, because even the running back situation last year, there was a ton of points for the Broncos running backs, but it was spread out among like three different players that no one was really like that valuable in fantasy. So I'm not trying to draft Javante this year. I'll take a swing on like Estime or McLaughlin, but the Broncos are usually like a big pass for me in general. And yeah, pick four. Good luck today as well. I'll be saying Morton Anderson, the kicker, played in New Orleans and Atlanta. Okay, we'll put him into the grid. I'm sure that's okay. 24%. So a lot of people were thinking it as well. Herschel for the Vikes and the boys. All right, let's do it. Herschel Walker. I have already. Am I misspelling Herschel Walker? Yeah, there's a C in there. Herschel Walker didn't win that like Senate campaign, did he? I remember he ran for like either the Senate or some congressional seat. No, he lost. Yeah, didn't he say some like weird ass shit or something? Like he said something really controversial. I don't remember. I don't know for sure, but um not shocking that he didn't win. They go Khalil Shakir. I think I'm gonna take Jordan Love. Grab another quarterback. Running back is tempting. Jaden Daniels, maybe. You know what? Let's go Jaden Daniels. Let's do it. Could be a true league winner. Damn it! Week 14 bye. Fuck. Fuck. Oh, okay. That's what happened. Yeah, that's not going to help him. Should have gone Love there. Could also take Dobbs. Stack him up. What round am I in? We're at the 8-9 turn. Here, pick 96 on the clock. That was my 8th round pick when I took Jaden Daniels there. So high touchdown production with Stroud and Jaden, but in week 14, not great. However, this is kind of a situation where you do want three quarterbacks. I think in the marathon, when every week is important, I think you do want to kind of lock up some of that floor with a third quarterback on this team. So this might be a 3-7-7 or 3-5-7 3 build. I do need to hit receiver soon, though. I think I'm going to go Josh Palmer. Receiver's drying up. And Palmer's got a very safe floor. Fletcher Cox, the one and only, asking, should I trade T. Higgins for Kamara? I'd rather have T. Higgins. There's a world where Jalen Warren is a steal here, but I've kind of ignored receiver for a while. I'm going to go with Josh Palmer. Am I for real? Give me reasons. I'd much rather bet on the Bengals than the Saints. I also think that Kamara is a decently high injury concern this season at the age of 29 behind a terrible offensive line. There are some red flags for sure with Kamara. If it's full PPR, you can argue that Kamara is a top 12 running back, maybe top 10, because he just sees so many checkdowns from Derek Carr. But I think with those red flags, I assume it's half PPR. And straight up, I'd rather have the upside of T. Higgins in the Bengals offense. Much rather bet on the Bengals than the Saints. Wouldn't shock me at all if Kamara gets hurt, misses most of the season. I don't see many touchdowns for him, whereas I think the upside of T. Higgins means there could be double-digit touchdowns for him this year, especially with Jamar Chase not really practicing. His chemistry in a contract season with Burrow should be firing at a very high rate early on in the year, and I think he'll start off very well next season. So he's the type of guy that can help you start maybe like with a 4-1 record, put you in a good position for the playoffs, allow you to make some trades with the comfort of knowing you may have locked up that playoff spot. Kamara, someone you're almost never going to be able to trade because very few people are going to be wanting to target him later on. So if you're the team with T. Higgins and someone's trying to offer you Kamara, it's because they're worried about Kamara this season, and I think they rightfully are. Yeah, give me T. Higgins over Kamara. After Palmer, we see Jalen Warren, Hollywood Brown, Zach Moss, Curtis Samuel, Chase Brown, Caleb, Brock Bowers, Dallas Goedert, Brian Robinson Jr. at pick 109. So running back is what I want. I'll hope for Jerome Ford here. Might go with Rico Dowdle around the turn. And I'll probably look for like maybe a Jalen Wright selection later on as a true handcuff to Raheem Mostert. But Nick Chubb loses a lot of value in this format, so we'll see what these next two teams do. I likely get sniped on Ford. That's what I assume this next. Yep, that's what happens. So we're looking at Gus Edwards then. I think I have to take Gus here. Hoping for touchdowns. I would rather have Ford, but I'll settle on Gus. Should score some touchdowns behind a really good offensive line and a team that's going to run the ball a shit ton next year. So we'll do that. Another commitment to the Chargers offense. So let's hope that works out. But here at receiver, I'll probably go with Dontavian Wicks. All right, so here's the team so far. We went with Tyreek Hill, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Joshua Palmer at receiver. We've got a double stack going with CJ Stroud and those Texans receivers. We also have Jaden Daniels at quarterback. Tight end is Trey McBride. Running back, Josh Jacobs, Raheem Mostert, Gus Edwards. So running back is a little bit dicey, but some high upside plays, especially Mostert. Mostert could be a huge steal in the ADP. If he finishes top 10 again, like if A-Chain goes down, that'd be fucking awesome. But we'll see. Mostert could have like a 4 touchdown game this year. You know, like they did last season. And whether it happens in like week 2 or week 7, it doesn't matter. It all counts the same. But I kind of regret passing on Jordan Love because now I'm probably going to need a third quarterback, and I don't really want one. I'm not going to take Dalton Schultz, though. I already have 2 Texans receivers. I'm going to skip on that. Gonna grab receiver before it completely dries up. Give me Dontavian Wicks. And if Christian Watson gets hurt, that pick will pay off. Even if it doesn't, I think it pays off. But that's the world where it's the most valuable. Which isn't a bad bet. Not at all. Christian Watson misses a lot of games. Should I trade Ramondre and T for Bijan? That I'd probably do. Yeah. I think I'd rather do that. Especially if you have like solid receiver depth and not much running back depth. He's the best player of the three, so that means you win the trade. I'd look to get someone as well, get a cheap option, because there's no real like 1-to-1 trades or 2-to-1 trades. Like, he's gonna have to drop someone regardless. So maybe that's someone you want. Maybe you can get someone better, but obviously you have access to the waiver wire with an empty roster spot. So if that's what you got to do to get it, then go ahead. Maybe there's nobody else on their team that you want. So yeah, I think I'd rather have Bijan there. But after I take Wicks, we see Eckler, Zeke, Brandon Cooks, Pat Freiermuth, Jerry Jeudy, Dalton Schultz, Gabe Davis. Where does Terry go in this draft? Terry went pick 50, above Rashee Rice, just behind Amari Cooper. And we were noticing that receiver was pushed down in this draft. Running back was pushed up. So if this wasn't a marathon, we'd probably see Terry go in like the mid-4th rather than pick 50, which was his previous ADP already. So yeah, Terry is moving up the board a little bit. Justified. Okay. Brandon Cooks, Pat Freiermuth, Jerry Jeudy, Dalton Schultz, Gabe Davis, Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson, 132. Is there like a big hype train recently on Michael Wilson? I've seen him go a lot sooner lately. Kind of surprising. But then Trey Benson. Maybe this team just has a lot of... Yeah, they have Kyler. They have Marvin Harrison. And they're at the turn. Reaches are justified at the turn. But probably going to go with like Darnell Mooney here. Or Chuba Hubbard. Probably go Mooney just because receiver's so fucking ugly after that. These teams don't have a ton of running backs, though, so I should probably be taking running back. I'm going to risk it, though. Mooney, I think, is by far the best receiver pick left. So unless I get sniped, I think I'm just going to go with Mooney. And that way I can be done at 7. Yeah, just give me Darnell. Hoping there's not 6 straight running backs coming off the board at this turn, because if I don't get Chuba, I would want Jalen Wright. I don't want to have to reach on Ray Davis. But I'll settle for Chandler. We'll see. Might regret that Darnell Mooney pick. But I'd much rather have Mooney than Adam Thielen. And Michael Wilson. They both go above Mooney in this draft. But I don't think this team is going to take running back because they already have 5. They just went Josh Downs. So it's a question of, do either of these teams double up at RB? While the Jalen Wright handcuff is probably like a decent insurance policy, it could also be a complete zero as well. So I think straight up, I'd rather have Ty Chandler. I'm getting at least one of them because this team goes Jaleel McLaughlin. But I think I'm going to go with Ty Chandler above Jalen. I don't even have that choice. Wow. Both of these teams double up at running back. So at least I get the insurance policy. If Mostert does not work out for me, then I at least have Jalen Wright. But if Mostert's staying healthy and so is A-Chain, then I don't get anything from Wright. If A-Chain goes down, then I'm getting a lot of points from both Mostert and Jalen. And obviously, if both A-Chain and Mostert go down, then I have a top 5 running back in Jalen Wright. So I'm glad I didn't have to settle on Jaleel McLaughlin or Ray Davis there, but that was a bit risky. Didn't feel too safe on that. But I did get the best receiver, in my opinion. Jahan Dotson goes 152. Team BT Haler, or however you pronounce that, did not notice the news today, or maybe they did and they just don't know what is going on. But this is not a good pick. Jahan Dotson in the 13th round, not a good pick. Not anymore. And it's not like they have Jalen Hurts, so very unjustified. After Jalen Wright, we see Komet, Jalen Polk, Baker Mayfield, Jahan Dotson, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Legette, Luke Musgrave, Aaron Rodgers, Tyler Conklin. I would have considered Conklin for sure. But here's the team so far. At quarterback, we're sitting pretty. We got Stroud and Jaden Daniels. Running back, a little thin, but not terrible. Josh Jacobs, Raheem Mostert, Gus Edwards, Jalen Wright. Wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Josh Palmer, Dontavian Wicks, Darnell Mooney. Tight end, Trey McBride. We're sitting with that Texans double stack with Nico Collins and Tank Dell. But I want 2 more running backs on this squad, 1 more receiver, and I think we have 5 more picks. Yeah, so that leaves us with 1 more tight end, 1 more quarterback, most likely. Yeesh, this is not great. I'm just going to settle the score at quarterback. I'm going to go Sam Darnold. We're done there. But I'm going to take Ben Sennett if he is coming back around. There's a world where Zach Ertz stays healthy, but he's old. He's not a safe bet to do that. Sennett is also a really good athlete. Sennett was the number 2 athlete in this year's class at the tight end position. Runs a 4.68, 76th percentile speed score, 98th percentile burst score, 95th percentile agility, 96th percentile catch radius. He's 6'4", 250 pounds. He's only 22 years old, and they also drafted him in the 2nd round. If Ertz goes down, we could see a big breakout. Last year, he caught 49 receptions for 676 yards. That's pretty good for a tight end. Only 6 touchdowns, though. Not like elite, but definitely not bad. Not something to completely dismiss. But with that Jahan Dotson trade, definitely more appealing in Washington. So let's take Senate, pair him up with McBride, and honestly, he could be this year's McBride. Especially given how last year went for McBride behind Ertz for like 6 weeks. Ideal situation. Just a question of will he break out in year 1 or year 2? That's the question. But I think I can definitely go with like a De'Ami Brown with one of these next 3 picks. We do have Jaden Daniels, so I think that is justified. I think we're done at tight end. We're done at quarterback. That was the beauty of taking Trey McBride. We only need 2. And I do want some safety at the running back position. I think I need 6 for sure. And while I do only have 6 receivers, I think 7's going to be fine. I don't think I need 8 on this team. It'd be nice to have 8, but I think it'll work out. Fletcher asking, I traded ETN and Ramondre and ETN for Ramondre and T a couple days ago. What are my thoughts? As long as you like needed receiver, I think that's a fine trade, but I do think ETN is the best player of the 3. So it's really a question of roster construction at that point. I think it's a fair trade. Obviously a big downgrade at running back to get Ramondre. I think it depends on your roster. Like if you were stacked at receiver already and you made that trade, I would say it's a bad deal. If you were really thin at receiver, I think it would be a good trade for your roster. So that's one thing. Like I don't hate answering trade questions, but I do think like without the full context of the roster, sometimes it's really hard to actually tell you if it's a good trade or not, because even if it's on paper like a good deal, if you don't have the depth that you're sending away to compensate for the move, then even like a good deal on paper could be bad for your individual team, you know? Like if ETN was your stud hero running back and now you're starting Ramondre and like who's like a mediocre running back. Like if you have Ramondre and DeAndre Swift now as your starting running backs, meanwhile T. Higgins is like on your bench because you had like 3 stud receivers, then that's a bad trade in my opinion. But if you had ETN as your flex and now T. Higgins is in your starting lineup, then it's a great trade. You know, it's all about context. But in case I time out, we'll just queue up De'Ami Brown, but I'm going to go Jordan Mason here. A handcuff to McCaffrey is a good pick. And it looks like Jordan Mason is the guy that you want. It looks that way. But I might go with Tyrone Tracy coming back around. I might go with Alexander Madison or Tank Bigsby. Roshan's interesting. Estime's not bad. You guys know I like Dylan Laube, but he's been falling lately. I think I'll still have like decent running back options coming back around. So I think I'm going to avoid grabbing running back here. And I think I'm just going to grab De'Ami Brown for the sake of this stack. I think that's just what I'm going to do. Looking like the number 2 receiver in Washington, and at least in the preseason, he had a good connection, it looked like, with Jaden. So I think that's just what I'm going to do. I think He is a player you should be drafting in rounds 17, 18. You can take him even higher if you really want to, but especially given the fact he was so undrafted up to this point, he's really good for the sake of uniqueness in these tournaments, especially like Best Ball Mania, even the marathon here, having a more unique team. If De'Ami Brown really works out, it's going to be a really good pick. A lot of teams have Luke McCaffrey, though, already, so that's a little less unique. We'll go with De'Ami. But Fletcher asking, why is ETN being drafted 40th overall in these drafts? Because underdog, you need to start 3 receivers, so running backs get pushed down because of roster construction. But you drafted ETN 21st overall on ESPN. That makes a lot more sense. ESPN, that's a league where you typically only have to start 2 receivers every week, 2 running backs. And if it was that same roster construction, you'd see ETN going a lot closer to pick 20 than 40. That's the only reason why. You have to start more receivers here on underdog. But you already had Breece Hall, so yeah, I think you could 100% afford to give up ETN there. And if you took Breece Hall, that means you passed on elite receiver in round 1. So having T. Higgins, I think, worked out. Yeah, that's a good trade. It's pretty fair. ETN's the best player, but ETN was a bit more of a luxury RB2. Now you have better depth at receiver. And hello to you as well, El Cubano. Is it El Cubano? For some reason, I want to say it with like a Spanish accent, but there is no accent on the N. Or is it like El Cubano, like you're Cuban? That's my guess. But either way, I think the Spanish accent would work. Although baño means bathroom in Spanish, so maybe I'm wrong to say it that way. Let me know. El Cubano. Okay. The Cuban. I'll remember that next time. I will not say the Q bathroom anymore. Okay, so running back here is kind of rough. I could definitely talk myself into Estime. Some high touchdown upside. We spoke about how earlier I'm not really trying to draft any Broncos, but they do use the running back position a lot. And Estime is that goal line type of back. If Javonte were to get hurt, I could see him getting a lot more touches on first and second down. I'm going to go Estime with the hope that Javonte doesn't work out. At least Sean Payton drafted Estime. That's a good sign. But it is kind of a crowded backfield. If it wasn't round 18, I wouldn't feel comfortable with Estime. But at this cheap of a price, I think it's fine. I need some depth at running back, a little bit more. When I have Jalen Wright, I need someone that can actually get me some points. And there will be some spike week options, some touchdown production from Estime. I think. So, is this only my 4th marathon? I feel like I've done 5. It looks like it's my 4th. We'll remind you of the roster. Yep, only my 4th. So I've got CJ Stroud double stacked with Nico Collins, Tank Dell. I've got Jaden Daniels double stacked with De'Ami Brown and Ben Sinnott. I've got Sam Darnold unstacked, but I think that's fine. Running back Josh Jacobs, Raheem Mostert, Gus Edwards, Jalen Wright, Jordan Mason, and Audric Estime. A little bit thin, a little bit shaky, but at least I have Jacobs. At least I've got a top 10 running back on this team. If Mostert stays healthy and remains the guy on the goal line, then he's really going to pay some dividends for me. But I'm a little bit shaky about my running back depth on this team. Gus Edwards, need him to be the goal line back, need him to stay healthy. We'll see what happens. And then Jalen Wright, at least I have some insurance for Mostert, but could be a complete zero. I'd feel better if he was a zero, though, because then that means Mostert would smash. Mason, a potential league winner if McCaffrey gets hurt, and then Estime hoping for some touchdowns. But then receiver, at least I have Tyreek Hill as my stud. He's in the lineup every fucking week. Nico Collins, Tank Dell for that stack. Josh Palmer, high upside, decent floor. Dontavian Wicks just shooting for the moon with some spike week potential. Only in best ball do I think he's a good pick. I think it's pretty risky in redraft because you really never know when to start him until Christian Watson gets hurt. And then speaking of shooting for the moon, Darnell Mooney, also big spike week guy, some touchdown production. And then De'Ami Brown, potential steal if he turns into what we thought Jahan Dotson was going to do, and you get him in round 17, 18. Not bad, especially with the stack. Tight end 1 is Trey McBride. Tight end 2, Ben Sinnott. I think the team is pretty solid. Some high, like, stud options as, like, the best guys at each position, but there is some shaky depth regarding this running back room. I think if any position can be shaky, I think it's that one. But this roster, this league really coveted running backs early. I would have preferred to have Pacheco. Anyways, that's it for this draft. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you had some fun. And if you have not done so already, hit that Whoa, no, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. This is what I want. Hit the subscribe button for me. And yeah, go ahead and do that. Hit the like button and comment. Check out the channel for some rankings updates. I posted my top 75 receivers last night. Posted my top 60 running backs as well the other day. And I might be updating quarterback and tight end, but I think I'm probably just going to wait until after the preseason to do that. That's kind of not that big of a deal. There are very few changes at those two positions. But yeah, there's a few more videos coming out. And before you know it, 2 weeks from today, we have the first game of the season. So really excited. Should be fun. But before I go, El Cubano is asking, quick question, Puppy 3, my final pick, and I only have 5 receivers. I have Daniel Jones as my QB3. Do we prefer Slayton or Hyatt? I prefer Slayton, I think. I think I'd rather go Slayton, but Hyatt has some upside. I think for the sake of being unique, if De'Ami Brown's still on the board, I don't think you need to stack up Daniel Jones at all. I'd rather just go De'Ami Brown. So that's my suggestion there. Pass on Giants receivers. Go with De'Ami Brown. Anyways, that's it for me. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys tomorrow with another live stream. And yeah, hope to see you there. Have a good one. Bye-bye.